Hi guys, and welcome to another scintillating episode of Chow with Lao, and this time we're doing the Chinese classic barbecue spare ribs. So guys, for this recipe you are going to need some pork ribs, a couple of cloves of garlic, some hoisin sauce, some 5-spice powder, bit of honey, sesame oil, light soy sauce, bit of salt and pepper, some black vinegar, secret weapon, yellow bean sauce, and some xiaoxing white wine, or if you haven't got that, some dry sherry or dry white wine. Let's get this party started, shall we? So the first thing we're going to do is make the marinade, and for that we're going to need some of this. This is yellow bean sauce. It's another soybean product. It's kind of like the Chinese super secret weapon for lots of different recipes, including a lot of the barbecued stuff like you see, like the ribs, like the roast pork, also used in a lot of stir-fry dishes, but we'll come across that in another video in the future. So I'm going to put 2 big tablespoons of that in. And we're going to add a tablespoon of light soy sauce, a tablespoon of hoisin sauce. You can play it quite fast and loose with the quantities because there's no exact science to this. It's kind of what you feel is going to work, and every time it might come out slightly different, but hey, that's the good thing. If you keep to kind of these kind of ratios, you can't go far wrong. We're going to now use black vinegar, which is a Chinese product again. This is the sort of thing you'll find in a Chinese supermarket. Highly recommended. 1 tablespoon of sesame oil, but this you can find in your local supermarket these days. Couple of tablespoons of honey. It's very important that we get some sweetness into the sauce, and that'll help create that kind of caramelization. And the undertone of sweetness is always something you need in most barbecue foods. To that we're going to add the rice wine, a couple of tablespoons. Like I said, if you haven't got that, you can use dry sherry or dry white wine. You probably won't tell the difference after it's cooked. And then I've got 2 cloves of garlic, which I've chopped finely. You can go in there. 5-spice powder, which you can get readily in most big supermarket chains. If not, you can always source it at your Chinese supermarket again. I don't think it's rare. And finish with a good dash of salt and pepper, of course. Okay. So we're going to give that a good stirring together. Make sure you combine it nicely. It smells very appetizing already, I can tell you that. Okay, and then we bring our ribs into play. And we're going to pour this, so that needs a bit more stirring. So make sure the yellow bean gets well incorporated into the sauce. It's quite thick, so it's probably the last thing to kind of dissolve into the sauce. And we can start pouring that all over our ribs. Okay, and time to get your hands dirty. Of course, I washed them first. We're going to massage the ribs or the sauce into the ribs. Okay. There we go. I'm making excess sauce because what I'm going to do is brush the ribs with it halfway through. So therefore you could use this on more ribs if you wanted to. I think I've got 700 grams of ribs here, and that will serve 2 people, or as a starter for a few more people, depending on what you're doing. Obviously you can use as many as you like, and there's just increase the amount of sauce. Just keep the ratios about the same and you'll be fine. Cool. And so now what you do is just let it sit and marinate in your fridge for 3 hours, overnight perhaps. 3 hours is about right there, I think. And then we'll go to the next step. Right guys, so the ribs have been marinating in the fridge for 3 hours and we're ready to go in the oven. I've got the oven preheated at gas mark 6, which is 200 degrees C. And I'm going to just lay these on a baking tray, a foil lined baking tray. One thing about choosing your ribs is try to get the meatiest ribs you can. Ribs always have quite a high fat content, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's where the flavour is. A Chinese person normally considers a rib with fat, quite a fatty rib, as a good rib, which doesn't always suit everybody else, but that's how we like to eat, because the flavour is all in the fat. What you don't want is a dry, tough piece of meat on bone. Ribs, kind of, when you cook them like this, they tend to go quite tender, but the fat really gives it another dimension. So I'm just going to line this up here. Okay. There we go. Do not discard the sauce because we're going to put the ribs in for a total of about 40 minutes. And for the last 10-15 minutes we're going to go in with a pastry brush and brush some more marinade on them. Okay, so into the oven they go. Right guys, so we're now just halfway over our cooking time, so we're going to get our marinade, pastry brush, and kind of baste the ribs in extra marinade to make sure they stay nice and moist and give it as much flavour as we can. They're already looking amazing. They smell even better. Literally mouth is watering as I am doing this. So all I can do to refrain from grabbing one and eating it right now, but that would not be a good idea because they're not cooked yet. Okay. So that's that side done. I'm going to grab my tongs and turn them over. If I can do it, they're a little bit fiddly. Okay, give this side a bit of a going over as well. Make sure you adjust your cooking times according to how thick and how meaty your ribs are. These ribs aren't particularly thick, so yeah, around 35-40 minutes cooking time in all is about right. But if you get some bigger ones, maybe if you go to your butcher and they give you some really big ones, then just bear that in mind and make sure they're thoroughly cooked before you eat them. Okay. I'm going to turn them over so they're meat side up, because we want to finish off with a nice caramelization. At this stage, if you were doing a barbecue, now's the time to put them in the barbecue. So you're half cooking them in the oven and then finishing them off on the barbecue. That would be quite a good way of doing it. But that's not what we're doing today. So just to finish off, just put a little extra of this sticky, sweet, unctuous marinade over the ribs. Okay, and they're ready to go back into the oven. So now another 15 minutes or so, and we should be done. It's the moment of truth. Barbecue spare ribs. Whoa, check these bad boys out. They're looking pretty sweet to me. I'm going to just pick one, the one in the middle. This looks nice. Look at that, guys. Get your taste buds ready. Right, guys, time to try these bad boys. That is amazing. Excuse the talking with a mouthful, but I can't help it. That is so gorgeous. You can taste the sweetness coming from the honey. You can taste the star anise coming through very subtly in the hoisin sauce and the yellow bean. If you've had spare ribs from takeaways and restaurants before, it ain't nothing compared to ribs that have come out of your own oven. This is just the best. So I'm going to end this video because I want to finish these guys. So hopefully you've been entertained, inspired. You're going to make your own. If you want to see more recipes from me, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.